Hello, welcome to this lesson on the resource market. First, we're going to look at the different factors of productions, which also mean resources or inputs. There's four of them. We're going to use the acronym of the CEL to memorize them. C stands for capital, and capital pays something called interest. This is the factor payment or the price of the resource. Entrepreneurship pays profit, land pays rent, and labor pays wage. Here we have supply and demand in the resource market. What we're going to do is for the price, we're going to make it the name of the price of the resource. So labor, we're going to put wage here as the price, and we're going to put quantity here of that resource, so quantity of labor. So we got wage on the y axis, quantity of labor on the x axis, and we have the demand for labor, we had the supply of labor, and the point where the quantity demanded and quantity supplied of labor are the same. That gives us our equilibrium quantity of labor and our equilibrium wage right there for the labor market. Something that the government might try to do to set prices in the labor market is to institute a price control, such as the minimum wage. The minimum wage is a price floor, so it is the lowest possible price. In this example, is the lowest possible wage because we're in the labor market that can be paid for labor. Now, since the price floor has been instituted, which is the minimum wage, nobody can pay less than this wage to workers. This reduces the consumer surplus from the businesses hiring the workers, and it increases the producer surplus of the workers themselves. Since they are under hiring workers now, since they're going to hire less, since they have to pay them more, there's going to be deadweight loss in the labor market right there, which is going to lead to unemployment. Basically, workers, not all workers are going to be able to find a job. So, after instituting the price floor, the consumer surplus got lower, the producer surplus got higher, but the producer surplus did not cover all of this area, so we ended up with deadweight loss, which exists due to this imposition of the price floor, and we have unemployment now in the labor market. Here we're going to look at the market for land. Now, land has a different price, which is called the rent. So we have quantity of apartments here and rent. And here the government is instituting a price ceiling. This is the maximum price that they can charge for rent. This is called rent control. In this one, the consumer surplus got a lot bigger because consumers or the tenants of the apartments are going to get a bigger consumer surplus since they have to pay less due to the price ceiling. The producer surplus, the landlords, they got smaller producer surplus. And now there's a shortage of apartments here. This is going to lead to deadweight loss in the markets um, due to the imposition of this price ceiling. So the consumer surplus got higher, but not enough to cover up what was lost by the producer surplus. So we end up with deadweight loss due to the price control, the price ceiling. This leads to a shortage of apartments in the market. Here we have the shifters in the labor market. These are things that can shift the demand for labor as well as the supply of labor. So first we're going to look for the demand for labor. The demand for labor is done by those who need workers, the ones hiring the workers. And the shifters of this demand for labor, we're going to use the acronym POW to represent those shifters. We have product prices. Basically, the demand is being derived by the final product that people are buying. They're going to need more workers to pay for it, to build it. Other resources, so maybe you have labor versus robots, and worker productivity. How much production are the workers doing in that market? If there's an increase in the demand for labor, the demand curve is going to shift to the right. And if there's a decrease in the demand for labor, the demand curve is going to shift to the left, right there. An increase in demand leads to a higher wage and a higher quantity in the labor market, and a decrease in demand leads to a lower wage and a lower quantity in the labor market. Now let's look at the supply of labor. Supply of labor is provided by the ones who are working, which is the workers. So the workers supply their labor. The acronym to remember the shifters of the supply of labor is CAMWELL, and this is represented by cultural expectations, alternative options that workers can go into, the mobility of workers to go from place to place, working conditions, education and training of the workers, and preferences for leisure instead of work. If there's an increase in the supply of workers, more workers, the supply curve is going to shift to the right. There's a decrease in the supply of workers, the supply curve shifts to the left. You can see that when supply increases, wages for workers go down, but there's more workers being available in the market. And when supply decreases, wages for the workers still there are going to go up, but there's going to be a lower quantity of workers in that market. That's all for this lesson. See you next time.